Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden, Japan's Kishida meet ahead of G7 summit, vowing to stand strong against global threats. 8-year-old girl dies in Border Patrol custody in Texas as agency struggles with overcrowding. Montana says first in nation TikTok ban protects people. TikTok says it violates their rights. Fire chief says 2 missing after massive blaze at North Carolina construction site. Montana judge temporarily blocks enforcement of abortion ban, hearing next week. US greenlights major transmission line for renewable energy in western states. ChatGPT makes its debut as a smartphone app on iPhones. Indiana Jones swings into Cannes Film Festival. Harrison Ford honored before joyous festival goers. World leaders gather for G7 meetings, ready to pile fresh sanctions on Russia over Ukraine war. Russia fires 30 cruise missiles at Ukrainian targets. Ukraine says 29 were shot down. First full-size 3D scan of Titanic shows shipwreck in new light. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral cost UK government $200 million. Syria's Assad arrives in Saudi Arabia for regional summit, sealing his return to the Arab fold. China asks Australia to increase search for 39 aboard capsized boat as 2 bodies reportedly found. Butler scores 35, Heat rally to beat Celtics 123-116 in East Finals opener. Rafael Nadal to miss French Open with hip injury, expects 2024 to be last season. And Kenyan marathon star Eliud Kipchoge wins Spain's 2023 Asturias Award for Sports. You are listening to Headlines, now news in detail. President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida met Thursday, aiming to showcase the strength of their alliance ahead of a Group of 7 summit where leading democracies will tackle the challenges of Russia's war in Ukraine, North Korea's ballistic nuclear threats, and an increasingly forceful China. Biden recalled that Kishida said during a January Washington visit that the world faced one of the most complex security environments in recent history. "I couldn't agree with you more," Biden told the Japanese Prime Minister as they sat with their aides at a conference table. "When our countries stand together, we stand stronger, and I believe the whole world is safer when we do." Kishida noted that the global tensions had brought the US and Japan closer together, that the cooperation has evolved in leaps and bounds. The Kishida family's home city of Hiroshima will host the gathering of major industrialized nations known as the G7. The setting of Hiroshima, where the US dropped the first nuclear bomb in 1945 during World War II, carries newfound resonance. Members of the G7, which also includes Canada, France, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, and the European Union, are grappling with the territorial ambitions of Russia and China. to nuclear powers. A little girl from Panama born with heart problems died in Border Patrol custody Wednesday, the second death of a child from Latin America in U.S. government custody in 2 weeks. The 8-year-old girl and her family were being held in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, one of the busiest corridors for migrant crossings. The Border Patrol's parent agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, said. The agency has struggled with overcrowding at its facilities, spurred by a large increase in migrants ahead of the expiration last week of a key regulation on immigration linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. The girl experienced a medical emergency and emergency medical services were called. They took her to the hospital where she was pronounced dead, the agency said. An autopsy has been ordered, said Jesus T. Garcia Jr., the local judge presiding in the case. The girl's name was Anadit Tene Reyes Alvarez, said Honduran consul Jose Leonardo Navas, who is based in McAllen, Texas. He said she is from Panama, although her parents are from Honduras. The consul said that she was traveling with her father, mother, and 2 older siblings. She was born with heart problems and was operated on 3 years ago in Panama, according to her father, who spoke with the consul. Montana became the first state in the U.S. to enact a complete ban on TikTok on Wednesday, when Republican Governor Greg Gianforte signed a measure that's more sweeping than any other state's attempts to curtail the social media app, which is owned by a Chinese tech company. The measure, scheduled to take effect on January 1, 2024, is expected to be challenged legally and will serve as a testing ground for the TikTok-free America that many national lawmakers have envisioned. Cybersecurity experts say it could be difficult to enforce the ban. Today, Montana takes the most decisive action of any state to protect Montana's private data and sensitive personal information from being harvested by the Chinese Communist Party, Gianforte said in a statement. TikTok spokesperson Brooke Oberweiter argued that the law infringes on people's First Amendment rights and is unlawful. She declined to say whether the company will file a lawsuit. 2 construction workers are unaccounted for after a massive, fast-moving fire broke out at a North Carolina construction site Thursday morning, the city's fire chief said. 15 workers, including a crane operator, were rescued by the more than 90 firefighters called to the 5-alarm blaze in the South Park neighborhood of Charlotte just after 9 a.m., Fire Chief Reginald Johnson said at a news conference. The crane operator was taken to a hospital with injuries that were not considered life-threatening, Johnson said. 2 workers were unaccounted for according to the foreman, the chief said. The fire moved very rapidly and as crews worked to rescue all of the construction workers in the building. On 2 occasions, firefighters got trapped and had to be rescued by fellow firefighters, Johnson said. Images from the scene showed tall flames and the yellow crane could be seen amid huge clouds of smoke. Charlotte Mecklenburg police tweeted a request for people not to call 911 except in an emergency while the fire department battles the blaze. Investigators on the scene will determine the cause of the fire, Johnson said. A Montana judge has temporarily blocked the state from enforcing a new ban on the type of abortion most commonly used after 15 weeks of gestation until he can hear arguments on the law next week. District Court Judge Mike Menahan issued a temporary restraining order Thursday against a law that bans the use of dilation and evacuation abortions. Republican Governor Greg Gianforte signed the bill into law on Tuesday, and it took immediate effect. The law would cause immediate and irreparable harm and damage to Planned Parenthood and its patients if it was allowed to remain in effect while the challenge played out in court, the order states. Planned Parenthood of Montana filed a legal complaint over the constitutionality of the law on Tuesday, just hours after it was signed. Martha Fuller, president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Montana, said she was glad the judge recognized the harm that anti-abortion laws cause to patients seeking basic health care. The US government is green-lighting a proposed multi-billion-dollar transmission line that would send primarily wind-generated electricity from the rural plains of New Mexico to big cities in the West. The Interior Department announced its record of decision for the Tanziba project Thursday. It comes about a year after an environmental review was completed as part of a broader effort by the Biden administration to clear the way for major transmission projects as it looks to meet climate goals and shore up the nation's power grid. The Tanziba transmission project in New Mexico has been more than a decade in the making. The U.S. Defense Department and others initially raised concerns about the path of the high-voltage lines, prompting the developer to submit a new application in 2021 to modify the road. New Mexico's Renewable Energy Authority is among those invested in the Tanziba project, which would include roughly 520 miles of transmission lines and a network of service stations for getting wind and solar power to Arizona and California. The anchor tenant is California-based Pattern Energy, which has been busy building massive wind farms in central New Mexico. Federal land managers said they completed the latest review in less than 2 years. ChatGPT is now a smartphone app, which could be good news for people who like to use the artificial intelligence chatbot and bad news for all the clone apps that have tried to profit off the technology. The free app started to become available on iPhones in the US on Thursday and will later be coming to Android phones. Unlike the web version, you can also ask it questions using your voice. The company that makes it, OpenAI, said it will remain ad-free but syncs your history across devices. We are starting our rollout in the US and will expand to additional countries in the coming weeks, said a blog post announcing the new app, which is described in the App Store as the official app by OpenAI. It's been more than 5 months since OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public, sparking excitement and alarm at its ability to generate convincingly human-like essays, poems, form letters, and conversational answers to almost any question. But the San Francisco startup never seemed to be in a hurry to get it onto phones, where most people access the internet. Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford swung into Cannes on Thursday for the world premiere of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in one of the most anticipated events of the French Riviera Festival. Federers abounded in the throngs of onlookers who watched Ford and company hit the red carpet. Ford walked hand in hand with his wife, Callista Flockhart, and later joined his castmates as John Williams' score played across the red carpet. Among those in attendance were Disney chief Bob Iger, Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, and filmmaker Steve McQueen. Ford, who is 80 years old, has said Dial of Destiny will be his last performance as the character. He is also set to receive an honorary Palme d'Or from the Cannes Film Festival. Last year, Cannes feted Top Gun Maverick and Tom Cruise in a similar manner. It's not the first Indiana Jones film to premiere in Cannes. The fourth installment, Indiana and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, launched at the 2008 edition of the festival. Critics and fans alike dismissed Crystal Skull as a misjudged sequel, though it still made $790 million worldwide. Now it's time for global updates. World leaders landed Thursday for a Group of 7 meeting in Hiroshima, the site of the world's first atomic bomb attack. with Russia's war in Ukraine expected to be high on the agenda. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida kicked off his summit diplomacy by meeting with US President Joe Biden after his arrival at a nearby military base. He was due to hold talks with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak a bit later in the day, before the three-day gathering of leaders of the world's wealthy democracies opens on Friday. The Japan-US alliance is the very foundation of peace and security in the Indo-Pacific region, Kishida told Biden in opening remarks. G7 leaders and invited guests from several other countries are also expected to discuss how to deal with China's growing assertiveness and military buildup as concerns rise that it could try to seize Taiwan by force, sparking a wider conflict. China claims the self-governing island as its own, and its ships and warplanes regularly patrol near it. Security was tight in Hiroshima, with thousands of police deployed at numerous points throughout the city. A small group of protesters was considerably outnumbered by police as they gathered Wednesday evening beside the ruins of the Atomic Peace Dome Memorial, holding signs including one which read "No G7 Imperialist Summit." Russia fired 30 cruise missiles against different parts of Ukraine early Thursday in the latest nighttime test of Ukrainian air defenses, which shot down 29 of them, officials said. One person was killed and two were wounded by a Russian missile that got through and struck an industrial building in the southern region of Odessa, according to Sergei Brachuk, a spokesperson for the region's military administration. Amid the recently intensified Russian air assaults, China said its special envoy met with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky during talks in Kiev earlier this week with Ukraine's chief diplomat. Beijing's peace proposal has so far yielded no apparent breakthrough in the war. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said Thursday that the warring parties needed to accumulate mutual trust for progress to be made. Ukrainian officials sought during the talks to recruit China's support for Kiev's own peace plan, according to Ukraine's presidential office. Zelensky's proposal includes the restoration of his country's territorial integrity, the withdrawal of Russian forces, and holding Russian President Vladimir Putin legally accountable for the invasion in February 2022. Deep-sea researchers have completed the first full-size digital scan of the Titanic, showing the entire wreck in unprecedented detail and clarity, the companies behind a new documentary on the wreck said Thursday. Using two remotely operated submersibles, a team of researchers spent 6 weeks last summer in the North Atlantic mapping the whole shipwreck and the surrounding 3-mile debris field, where personal belongings of the ocean liner's passengers, such as shoes and watches, were scattered. Richard Perkinson, founder and chief executive of deep-sea exploration firm Magellan, estimated that the resulting data, including 715,000 images, is 10 times larger than any underwater 3D model ever attempted before. It's an absolutely one-to-one digital copy, a twin of the Titanic in every detail, said Anthony Giffen, head of documentary maker Atlantic Productions. The Titanic was on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York City when it hit an iceberg of Newfoundland in the North Atlantic on April 15, 1912. The luxury ocean liner sank within hours, killing about 1,500 people. The wreck, discovered in 1985, lies some 12,500 feet under the sea, about 435 miles off the coast of Canada. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral and lying in state last year cost Britain's government an estimated £162 million, the Treasury revealed Thursday. The state funeral for the late monarch, held on September 19, was the first in the UK since that of former Prime Minister Winston Churchill in 1965. The occasion, attended by world leaders and dignitaries, followed 10 days of national mourning after the Queen died at age 96 on September 8, after 70 years on the throne. Hundreds of thousands of people were drawn to London's Westminster Hall to see the United Kingdom's longest-serving monarch lying in state. The costs were published Thursday as part of a written statement to Parliament. The government's priorities were that these events ran smoothly and with the appropriate level of dignity, while at all times ensuring the safety and security of the public, said John Glenn, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, in a statement. Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, were both interred at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. The last royal funeral before that was for Elizabeth's mother, known as the Queen Mother, in 2002. She lay in state for 3 days, and her funeral costs were estimated to be around £5.4 million. Syrian President Bashar Assad arrived on Thursday in Saudi Arabia to attend a regional summit that is expected to seal Syria's return to the Arab fold, marking his first visit to the oil-rich kingdom since Syria's conflict began in 2011. Assad's attendance at the Arab League summit, which starts Friday, is a major step in normalizing relations following a 12-year suspension which saw the embattled leader turn toward non-Arab allies Iran and Russia to maintain his grip on power. The 22-member league, which is convening in the Saudi city of Jeddah, recently reinstated Syria and is now poised to welcome Assad, once viewed as a regional pariah, back into its ranks. The Syrian president was officially invited to attend the summit last week. Assad appeared relaxed and cheerful as he descended onto the tarmac, where he was greeted by Prince Badr bin Sultan, deputy governor of the shrine city Makkah, along with Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghaid and several local officials. It was not immediately clear if Assad will meet some of the Arab leaders attending Friday's summit. During Syria's conflict, Assad only visited Russia and Iran, and over the past 2 years he went to Oman and the United Arab Emirates. A Chinese envoy asked Australian authorities on Thursday to increase efforts to find survivors in the search for 39 crew members who were aboard a Chinese fishing boat that capsized in the Indian Ocean. As Chinese media reported, 2 bodies had been recovered. We wish that they could send more aircraft, more ships, and more staff, Ambassador to Australia Jiao Qian told reporters. We wish that our Australian colleagues would coordinate with other international or foreign vessels or ships near that area to help the search and rescue to save as many lives as possible. Jiao said China wanted to coordinate with friendly countries, including Australia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives, in the search and rescue effort. The search coordinator, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, said 3 aircraft and 7 ships, including 3 Chinese Navy ships, were involved in the search in the center of the Indian Ocean on Thursday. A Sri Lankan Navy ship was also heading for the scene, the authority said in a statement. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,345.43. The NYSE composite is increased by 31.51 points or 0.21%. Tokyo stock close price is 30,573.93. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 480.34 points or 1.60%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,297.3199. The Shanghai index is increased by 13.09 points or 0.40%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,727.25. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 166.68 points or 0.85%. Bombay stock close price is 61,431.74. The Sensex Index is decreased by 128.90 points or 0.21%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. The Miami Heat were in need of a calming presence following a sluggish start to their latest conference finals showdown with the Boston Celtics. Jimmy Butler provided that and a lot more. Butler scored 35 points, including 20 after halftime, and the Heat rallied in the second half to beat the Celtics 123-116 in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals on Wednesday night. He said his teammates have given him confidence. Miami trailed by 9 at the half before turning it around with a franchise playoff record 46 points in the third and outscoring Boston 66-50 over the final two quarters. It was Butler's fifth game with 30 or more points this postseason, and he added 7 assists, 6 steals, and 5 rebounds. For months, Rafael Nadal waited for his body to heal, waited to be able to push himself around the court at full speed, with full energy of the sort that has carried him to a record 14 titles at the French Open and a total of 22 at all Grand Slam tournaments. He finally acknowledged Thursday it wasn't going to happen in time for Roland Garros, where play begins in 10 days. And while he is not exactly sure when he will be fully recovered from a lingering hip injury, Nadal said he expects to return to action at some point and probably wrap up his career in 2024. Speaking at a news conference at his tennis academy in Manacor, Spain, the 36-year-old Nadal announced he will miss the clay court French Open for the first time since making his debut, and naturally claiming the trophy there in 2005. He also spoke about his future in a sport that he and Big Three rivals Roger Federer, who retired last year, and Novak Djokovic have ruled for decades. Kenyan marathon specialist Eliud Kipchoge has won the Princess of Asturias Award for Sports for 2023. The Spanish foundation that organizes the prizes said Thursday. Kipchoge, who is 38 years old, who took Olympic gold medals in the marathon in 2016 and 2020 and was world 5,000 meters champion in 2003, is considered a legend in world athletics and the best marathon runner of all time, the foundation's panel of judges said in a statement. The foundation highlighted that he is known as the philosopher for his strategy and concentration in running. Kipchoge has won in 10 editions of 4 of the major marathons, including London and Berlin 4 times each. He is the current Olympic marathon champion and holds the world record for the discipline, with a time of 2 hours, 1 minute, 9 seconds set in Berlin last year. That timing lowered by 30 seconds that record he himself had set in 2018. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. Before finishing today's news, let's hear out the headlines again. Biden, Japan's Kishida meet ahead of G7 summit, vowing to stand strong against global threats. 8-year-old girl dies in Border Patrol custody in Texas as agency struggles with overcrowding. Montana says first in nation TikTok ban protects people. TikTok says it violates their rights. Fire chief says 2 missing after massive blaze at North Carolina construction site. Montana judge temporarily blocks enforcement of abortion ban, hearing next week. US greenlights major transmission line for renewable energy in western states. ChatGPT makes its debut as a smartphone app on iPhones. Indiana Jones swings into Cannes Film Festival. Harrison Ford honored before joyous festival goers. World leaders gather for G7 meetings, ready to pile fresh sanctions on Russia over Ukraine war. Russia fires 30 cruise missiles at Ukrainian targets. Ukraine says 29 were shot down. First full-size 3D scan of Titanic shows shipwreck in new light. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral cost UK government $200 million. Syria's Assad arrives in Saudi Arabia for regional summit, sealing his return to the Arab fold. China asks Australia to increase search for 39 aboard capsized boat as 2 bodies reportedly found. Butler scores 35, hit rally to beat Celtics 123-116 in East Finals opener. Rafael Nadal to miss French Open with hip injury, expects 2024 to be last season. And Kenyan marathon star Eliud Kipchoge wins Spain's 2023 Asturias Award for Sports. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.